Hey, Nish here, and today I'm reviewing this Lumie Zest combined SAD and wake up light. For those who aren't aware, a seasonal affective disorder light, or a SAD light, is designed to treat the disorder of the same name. It's basically when there's a lack of sunlight, it can cause kind of low mood, and the idea is you use this light to kind of top up that and act as like an artificial sun. The wake up light feature, on the other hand, is designed for times, again, when the sun isn't rising early enough in the morning and you want a more natural alarm clock rather than an ear-piercing. I primarily bought this for the wake up feature, but I'm going to talk about both of the features today in this review and see if it's worth the whopping £125 price tag that Lumie put on this. So do stay tuned, because I'm going to talk about other competitors you might be interested in and also give you some top tips if you're looking to buy a light similar to this. So taking the device in hand, it's pretty small, about hand-sized, although I have really small hands, so it is very light. It's only about 400 grams, really portable. The front is dominated by the LEDs, and then you've got a small LCD display at the bottom. Taking you through the buttons, on the top there's a big snooze button and a light activation button. And on the back on the side, the main buttons to control the light. You've got a menu up and down arrow and also a mode button that lets you switch between the modes. There's this plastic bar thing on the back. You can take that off, and that's used to prop up the light at an angle, which is really essential. And lastly, in terms of I/O, you've got a mini USB. Now, they don't provide you a power supply in the box. You'll have to buy either one from Lumie or a third-party one, but you can also just use a USB cable for this, and they're pretty cheap. Before I dive into the features, if you are enjoying this, please do subscribe. It's a long way to 1,000 subscribers, and it is much appreciated. In order to set up all the settings for this wake up feature, you first have to hold the menu button, as I'm doing here, and that'll take you into the options. So the first option is what time do you want your alarm to go off. You can use the up and down arrows to select by minute. It's a little bit tedious. There's no special features here like a weekend time. There's just one alarm at one time. So once you're happy with that, you can then set the actual time of the clock. So what time is it now? Then you've got the intensity of the light at the peak of the wake up. I don't know why you wouldn't use the maximum here, but you can put it lower if you need to. Next up, we have an alarm sound option. So you can also enable that to go off at the time. It's a bit of a shrill beep. I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't get that loud. Next up is the LCD backlight level. So this is for this little screen here. When you're done using the wake up light, how bright will that screen appear? So I have mine off. Next up is the amount of time the light will take to go from 0 to 100% intensity at the time you set. So I put that on 30 minutes because it seems to work fine. So as you can see, it's kind of fiddly to get all the settings as you want them on this clock. And a big problem is if the clock doesn't receive power for half an hour, so if you unplug it for half an hour, all these settings get wiped. Once everything is set up, you can activate the alarm by pressing the light activation button that was on the top, and then it will set it up and wake you up as you desire. Then after you've woken up and you're all happy, you can turn off the backlight by pressing the up and down arrows at the same time, which is a really dumb button choice in my opinion, but that's just how you do it. You do get used to where the buttons are on the side after a little bit. Now, my experience using this wake up light, I think it does sort of work. It's pretty bright. It is quite a small light, so you do need to put it in the right place on your bedside table, for example, to make sure it will actually impinge on your face and not just hit the wall. But it is pretty good. I do find I wake up a little bit less groggy, and sometimes I wake up, say, before my alarm. I set a phone on my alarm as well because I'm really bad. But, you know, I wake up with this light before my alarm's woken me up, so it's kind of nice, and it means that it takes me less time to get out of that groggy phase. Next up, I want to talk about the SAD light feature, and I should preface this with the fact I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice here or anything. I'm just going to talk about how you'd use this potentially and some of the specs that Lumie have listed about it. So we're on wake up mode now, but if you want to switch it over to light therapy mode, you just have to press the mode button once on the back. So if all the settings were as you wanted them, you'd press the light activation button and it starts our little therapy session. But otherwise, you can long press the menu button to cycle through the options again. The first option is the intensity of the light being used. So there's 5 options. As you can see, it's completely screwing with my camera right now. And then you've got the time. Now, by default, the time will be set to appropriately match the intensity you've picked. So if your max intensity, it's going to be 20 minutes. If your minimum intensity, it's going to be 90 minutes, as it says here. But again, you can change that. You can go up and down and change by the minute. And that's basically all of your options. So if you want to use it, as I said, you press the light activation button, and it's pretty easy to use that mode. This light uses really powerful LEDs, and LEDs are great because they're very low power and very lightweight, so the result is a very portable device. The Zest provides the industry standard of 10,000 lux at 25 centimeters. Lux is an interesting unit because it is intensity per unit surface area. So as you get further away from the light, the lux is going to drop off no matter what you do because you're getting further away, the light's spreading out. That's why when you see a lux reading, you need to see a distance with it, and that will be really important when I talk about some other products later on. But the Zest provides 10,000 at 25 centimeters, as I said, and this is comparable. For example, they have the Arabica satellite, which is also 10,000 lux at 25 centimeters, but that uses two 24-watt halogen bulbs and weighs 2 kilograms, whereas this thing weighs about 400 grams, and I think it uses less than 10 watts. The other good thing about LEDs is they're rich in the blue part of the visible spectrum, which is meant to be good for driving the kind of chemical changes that you're trying to do with this kind of light. As I said, I didn't buy this light for the satellite purpose, and I have really been trying to test it and use it every day, but I've been really lazy with it, and I did use it a few days in a row, but that's not really good enough to get a good idea. But honestly, I didn't feel too much difference. It's just kind of annoying having it there shining into my face. So yeah, sorry I can't give you a thorough review of this. Now let's talk competitors. Now firstly with Lumie, they do sell other satellites of course. This is the only one that's a wake-up light and a satellite in one, but starting off with their satellites, most of their other ones are a lot bigger than this. Some of them use LEDs as well, but they generally are a lot bigger. And the trade-off is really that the Zest is quite portable and much easier to take places, whereas some of the others are a lot larger, a lot bulkier, and you generally wouldn't be moving them around. Now, while the Zest is portable, it does have some issues associated with that. The small size of the LEDs here mean that you do need to make sure you're pointing it in the precisely right direction to make sure it has the effect. The other thing about the size is it's hard to get close to this because it's so small, it's always going to be far away from you. And while it does provide the 10,000 lux at 25 centimeters, Lumie only recommend you use it at 50 centimeters, which probably wouldn't be as intense, it wouldn't be as powerful. It's going to reduce the intensity quite a lot by moving away, double the distance. So I'm not quite sure, if you want to get the proper intensity, it's very hard with this light to do that. As for wake-up lights, Lumie also have quite a few of those. They range from say £70 to £200, where you can get speakers and radios if you so desire. By my estimation, I think the wake-up feature of this is going to be similar in intensity to those, but again you've got this issue of this being a small light and only pointing in one direction, whereas most of the other wake-up lights are quite uniformly distributing that light. But if you get this point at the right direction, then I think there wouldn't really be much difference there. The other thing those lights have are a sunset feature where the light goes kind of orange at the end of the day, which is nice and all, but you could also have just a cheap lamp that does that. As for other brands, there are cheaper satellites out there. If you go on Amazon, you can find this one, for example, by Osomi for £30. And you can see in the description in the title it says 10,000 lux, but it doesn't give you a distance. And if you dig into the description, then you'll find in some very small writing that it's 10,000 lux at 10 centimeters. So, you're not going to have the light this far away from you. That's just not going to happen. So what that's going to mean is basically the intensity is nowhere near what it needs to be. Technically, it's a satellite because it's 10,000 lux, but it's not at the right distance. So do watch out for that. Make sure if you're looking at other brands, you need to make sure that it has the lux rating at an appropriate distance. Lumie do have some other cheaper satellites. I think the cheapest one is about £70, a vitamin L lamp, and that is, again, not as powerful as, say, this or some of the other ones. It's 10,000 lux at about 15 centimeters, I believe, so it's still not super powerful, and again, so you do need to spend a certain amount to make sure you're getting a good intensity. Right, let's try and wrap up this rather lengthy review with some conclusions. Now, firstly, I would say kind of redundantly that it's only worth getting this if you're planning to use both of the features, because it's quite a large price tag, and if you just need a satellite, you can save a bit of money and buy that, and if you just want a wake-up light, again, you can save some money and buy one of those. However, given that price tag, there's some aspects of this which I feel a little bit let down by. I don't think it's that user-friendly. When you're setting up all the wake-up features, it's really finicky, and the other thing is the alarm on there's only one setting. You can't set a weekday, weekend thing, which I would have thought is like a pretty simple staple feature, I would have thought, but yeah, they decided not to include that. The light therapy part of using this is at least quite easy, although it's made slightly awkward by the small size of the device. It's hard to get close to you because it's so small sitting on the table, and also, you have to make sure you angle it in the right direction. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this review was detailed and went over everything you wanted to know. Again, do subscribe if you enjoyed this, because it's a long way to 1,000 subscribers and I'm hoping to get there sort of soon, but we'll see if that happens. Let me know what you think of this kind of product and light. If you've tried something else and had a better experience, maybe let me know or let other people around know. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.